Love. There is nothing in this world that is more exhilarating or frustrating. We all want to be loved, be respected, and feel safe in our relationships with our lovers, friends, and family. So, what happens when instead of love, you're dealing with people you barely tolerate? Hey, I'm Keshia Rice, wife, dating coach, caffeine addict, and giver of really blunt advice. And this is Cherished. Hey, love. I don't know about you, but the older I get, the more annoyed I get with Disney fairy tales. Don't get me wrong, I love a good love story as much as the next person. But what happens when happily ever after turns into separated forevermore? For the daughter of two separated parents, it led to a different kind of journey on the path to happiness. Reverend Roxy Birchfield of Married by Roxy is a wedding officiant with plenty of style and a heart for seeing couples win. And you would probably recognize her if you've seen her because she's performed ceremonies on shows like Married at First Sight, Love is Blind, and Love and Hip Hop. Rev Roxy and I sat down and talked about ditching the fairy tale for real love, what we want to pass on to the next generation, advice for both single and married women, and of course, our love for reality TV. I present to you Reverend Roxy.
Yeah, it's my pleasure on this beautiful day.
So we were talking about this before we started recording, that people tend to think that I'm a huge romantic because I'm a dating coach. And not true at all. My husband is actually the romantic one. And you were saying that you aren't either. So I find it funny that like those of us who aren't romantics get into the dating and love business.
As a wedding officiant, one of the things that I have focused on a lot with my couples is the premarital counseling portion. We do have some couples who may not have done premarital counseling and may return for marital counseling. And people return for marital counseling for so many different reasons, but my passion has always come out of the fact that at 7 years old, my parents separated. And that really, for me, has been the biggest pain of my life. Like, people are talking about a pandemic, and I'm sort of like, somewhere inside of me, the 7-year-old girl is like, yeah, but what's going on with my mom and dad still not being together? Like, that's been the biggest pain of my life. Like, seriously. I mean, and this sort of kind of even explains the other ministries that I've been a part of, like being a chaplain in the hospital industry or being a chaplain in the military. If you realize there has been a trend in the type of ministries I've been a part of, and they're all crisis oriented. So I think there is no mistake that I've landed in the world of marriage, right? Because though there may or may not be a crisis at the moment, it is a huge commitment, probably one of the most complex and challenging commitments you will make in your entire life. And so that pain suddenly was turned into a passion over time, praise the Lord. And I'm really grateful for it because as I continue to help other people and encourage other people to have a lifelong marriage, I'm also continuing to heal the heart of the 7-year-old girl who saw her parents separate.
And I love that because you mentioned it, what you do is very holistic because I follow you on Instagram and I see all the pretty weddings and I see, nice backdrops and, oh, she has a gorgeous dress and everything. And, I come from very practical parents. My parents have been married for like 37 years now. I think that's right. My mom would probably kill me if I got that wrong, but either way. So, my mom was always like, weddings are beautiful, weddings are pretty, but don't get so caught up into a wedding and into having this pretty perfect day that you forget about the marriage, because the marriage is what you're going to be doing for the next 60, 70, 80 years of your life. That's where you need to have your focus. And I see people, instead of finding that balance, they tend to go on one or the other end. They have these big lavish weddings and divorce a year or two later, or they're all like the wedding doesn't have to be pretty, whatever, I'll just go to the courthouse, whatever, it's the marriage that matters. And they have that. And then, I know women who've regretted not having that big special day. So for you, when you do premarital counseling for all of your couples before you officiate, and then not only do you officiate, you also help make it pretty. So how do you find that balance? And do you screen couples and make sure that they're not just about, oh, I want a pretty day?
I actually don't screen the couples to see if that's what they're into. If that's what they're into, that's what they're into, and they will reap the whatever repercussions comes with the perspective you have, right? I'm all about experience, and I'm all about taking a journey with people, right? So that's something I learned out of my clinical practice. I'm not here to tell you how to be. I want to journey as you make decisions on the path. And as you come to a realization of the results of your decision, I want to be there with you also. And the more that I'm with you over time, the hope is that you will be enlightened based on experience. I mean, I really do believe people are way more intelligent than we give them credit. And I think sometimes the desire to have something that is aesthetically beautiful is a personality trait. I don't think that it's attributed necessarily to being shallow. I think that there are people who like pretty things. I am one of those people. So it's like, I like pretty things, but I really appreciate, how much better can it be if it has some actual meaning to it, right? So while I definitely, if people realize a trend on my wall, you won't necessarily see a ton of elopements. I have done them. I can do them, of course. But a lot of the kind of clients who are naturally attracted to me are the people who are going to have sometimes the more elaborate wedding. Now, my job's the same whether you elope and there's no decor or you have a ton of decor. My job as your officiant and your premarital counselor is completely the same. But it has a really nice impact, I can tell you, when people invest in a day as a couple, right? Whether it's financially and also working on a project together. Because anybody can wake up in the morning and say, let's go to the courthouse and get married. That really, to be honest, didn't take very much effort, right? It's a decision you made and you went down there and you got married. You didn't have to plan anything. The families didn't have to come together and get along. I think that people should actually be commended for having a wedding because it's the first major project of the relationship. And that is going to reveal and tell you a lot of things. And so either way, I really don't have a sort of a, an opinion about, but I do enjoy the journey nevertheless for both of those types of couples. And so, people do spend a lot of money sometimes on their wedding day. And sometimes, honestly, it's cultural. Certain cultures, I've talked to someone that was from a Middle Eastern or Eastern European country, and they were like, you don't get married if you have no money. You just don't. That's not a part of our culture. It's like you find every dollar, the family comes together and pours money into a wedding celebration because a wedding celebration has to be celebrated and that looks a certain way. So sometimes these big weddings that we've come to understand and known really have come out of so many different cultures.
Yeah. And I definitely agree with you. That is a huge project. I know my husband and I made I think both crazy and awesome decision to surprise our family with a wedding.
Oh, you had a surprise wedding. I don't think you ever told me that. You had a surprise wedding? Oh.
Yeah, so it was immediate family only. It was at a college in my hometown, Greenville, South Carolina. So by a lake, very pretty. But because we were surprising people, that meant that we were planning this ourselves. And it was really, for the most part, just the two of us. So it was definitely a project in bonding and communication because, I couldn't go to my sister, for example, and be like, we need help with this because she didn't know that there was going to be a wedding that, that we needed help with.
Yeah, all on your own, for sure.
So I definitely agree with you that there's that aspect of planning a wedding when it comes to having that communication. And, you were talking about premarital counseling. That was one of the things that my husband and I discovered. So we dated for 3 years before we got engaged.
Okay.
4 years or 2 years before we got engaged, 3 years before the wedding. And in our case, like when it came to planning the wedding and talking about budget, we kept it small and everything, but it led to so many other discussions about finances that we're like, oh, we never talked about this. Oh, I didn't know that that's what your spending habits were like. I didn't know that you had debt in this area, things like that.
Yep.
And when you're counseling couples before they get married, what are some of the big issues that people don't realize about each other, or people thought they knew the answer to the question, but they didn't really know it?
So I think you just started with a great point. Finances is definitely something we talk about. Now, we do not talk about finances in the sake of we are financial experts and we're going to tell you how to invest. No, I don't care how you want to invest. I don't care if you got money or you don't got any money, as long as you've paid your bill for the counseling session that day. What I do care about, though, is that that information that you just talked about, that the couple understands that there is something called a money style. Like everyone has a spending habit, a way of spending. Maybe they're a saver, maybe they're a spender. What are you guys? Figuring out that, and then figuring out how it meshes together, and talking about the future. What are some of the things that you want to accomplish? Maybe one of you wants to rent for the rest of your life because you want to live in a particular location and the only way to exist there is to rent, and you're totally fine with that. And maybe another person, ownership is very important to them. And so you would rather move somewhere less expensive because you would want to own. Owning means something, maybe because you grew up in a place where no one ever owned, or maybe it's a part of your culture to own. These are all things that are going to reveal other things. Nothing about a relationship is exclusive to just that topic. Finances can lead into something else. You know what I mean? We talk about family of origin, right? Because it makes no sense for me to sit here and talk about how much you like him, he likes you, if we can't even talk about how you grew up and what kind of marriages did you see around you. Perhaps you never even saw anyone get married. These are all important things that you are, believe it or not, conscious of it or not, bringing into your relationship. So we definitely talk about many different parts of the individuals that are coming together to create this new family unit. We talk about personality. That's something that people don't realize. We are hardwired a certain way. Yeah. Right? There's things about us that honestly ain't gonna change. So if you walking into the relationship talking about I'm gonna change him, I'm gonna change her, you just fooling yourself, and you setting yourself up to have a headache. Straight up. So we really dig in deep into talking about how couples are hardwired, right? As individuals, and then discuss realistically how these two people with these two personalities are going to come together. Regardless of if you have a similar personality or not, each pairing is going to have its challenges and its advantages, and we discuss what those are.
You're working with couples who are about to walk down the aisle, and I work with women who are single. So when it comes to talking about dating and everything, one of the first things we work on is, what is it that you want in a relationship? What is it that you need in a relationship? And a lot of times I find that women don't understand, and I'm sure men too, but I work with women. Women don't understand their own communication styles, or they don't understand that certain ways of resolving a conflict or resolving an argument aren't quote unquote normal. I grew up in a family where when things get heated, we believe in taking the time out. No big deal. Everybody go to separate corners, calm down a little bit. Let's get back and talk about it later.
Yeah.
My husband grew up in a family where they have things out. They go ahead and just, let's throw it all on the table right now. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And it was one of the things when we got married and started living together that I didn't realize, that if I was like, hey, this is too much, like we need to just calm down. Let me go to the room and have a minute.
Yeah.
That he saw it as I was walking away from the argument.
Yeah.
And, for him and for me, if things were getting heated like that, and I was like, I need a minute. And he was like, no, let's talk about it now. I'm like, what's the big deal? Like, I'm just asking for an hour,
Did Did you say that? Did you say you needed to know, or you just walk away?
No, I would say that I would say, well, I wouldn't say an hour, but I would be like, hey, like I just need I need time is how I would always phrase it. And that was one of those things where I didn't realize that I had just normalized the way that I grew up. And
in our
yeah.
head, we're living it out and not informing anybody of the details. And
Right.
why would you? It's an unsexy conversation, I like to say. You know, these are not things that the things that we discuss in premarital counseling are not things people discuss when they go on a date. It's just not. I'm just honest about that. It's the unsexy conversations that people just know. Sometimes people could have been dating for 6 years. I guarantee we were going to touch on things that you thought was kind of unspoken and people knew, but like no one really ever talked about it, you know?
Right. And that was one of those things where, going back to that example, you know, we had to get to the point where me waiting until the next day and sleeping on it didn't really work for him. You know, handling things right there doesn't necessarily work for me. So then I started saying things like, okay, I need 1 hour. I'm going to go journal. I'm going to go meditate. Yeah.
This is why, number one reason why people come to premarital counseling. We want to improve our communication. Communication means opening your mouth, giving out information that is necessary to the moments in time and the uncertain information that is just being shown in action, but not in the words.
Yeah. But, you know, that whole experience made me a better coach, because now when I talk to single women, I'm like, hey, do you know your communication style? Do you know how you resolve conflict? Do you understand that, like, not everyone grew up the same way that you did? So you need to know these things about yourself, because if you don't know these things about yourself, you can't communicate those things about yourself.
Yep. Absolutely. So true. And you know what? And I think my hope, I don't really do individual therapy. I think that is a different like place. There's a different
Right.
that like I literally refer out to a therapist that, you know, is a clinical therapist, and she can do other things. That my scope is definitely the couple, right? It's the couple. And you will learn things about yourself individually along the way of doing couples therapy or doing premarital counseling or doing marital counseling. But my focus is the couple, is the unit, is the family unit. So sometimes I might get a client that will say to me, oh, you know, I want to do like an individual session with you. And I really don't encourage that unless you can kind of give me some information beforehand, because it's not my level of expertise. And I mean, it was something that I really had to continue to remind people, and they just couldn't understand it because you know, we live in a world today where there's so many experts popping up who want to be all things to everybody. And I'm just like, that is like, you know, a lot of people say, I ain't got to go to college. I ain't got to go. I'm like, well, if you went to college, they would have taught you that. That just is ridiculous. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a reason why people have a major in college. Like, you have a major because you have a lane. And not because we don't want competition, but you have a lane so you could become an expert. To be an expert, you have to spend your life as a student to something. What are you a student of? You know, like whatever you're a student of is where your expertise lies. And so my expertise, even though I can provide pastoral counseling in this scope, it's really the couple. And so I, you know, truly discourage it, because I really also want to discourage people kind of saying more privately.
Yeah.
The whole goal is to say more around each other. You're never going to improve your communication if all your communication is in private without the person you're married to or going to marry. So
yeah, I mean, I think that there's a place for something like that, but it has to, you have to be able to fit that in. For example, if a couple has, you know, if one member of a couple cheated or something, if you're having a private discussion to talk about how you're going to approach that discussion with your partner, that is one thing.
That's a great example. There you go. That's why I said I need to have a little preface before we get into it, because we're not going to get into it now. You're telling me all these things about someone who is not here, not necessarily to defend themselves, but to explain where they were coming from.
Right. And, you know, we're talking about that with expertise, and also knowing that it's okay not to be all things to one person, because, for me, my job as a coach is to get women to the point where they're seeing someone like you. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh,
my
bring them in.
but my job is not women who are about to get married. I teach women how to love themselves, how to get to know themselves, how to get to know their needs, how to increase their confidence. And as a result of that, they attract the right man. They attract healthy relationships because they are healthy. But then once you become a healthy, whole person, and then you add somebody else, that's a whole new chapter right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Before I got married so quickly, in the time that I did get married, it's funny because I got married after knowing my husband and getting married all in 3 weeks, but I had spent 3 years totally single. And for a lot of people, and that was in my 20s. So for when you're in your 20s, and since the first boyfriend to the person you married, you've always been in a relationship, 3 years of singleness is a long time, okay? 3 years of singleness, and like real singleness, not single and purposefully not even really dating, because the truth of the matter is, the more I did get to know myself and the things that were important to me, the candidate pool was really not even that large, to be honest. It wasn't, because the focus that I had on the things that were important to me, I really wasn't surrounded by a ton. I realized quickly, naturally, I really wasn't surrounded by a whole bunch of people that had the same, not the same mindset, but like life mission, or right? And so when I did meet my husband, it was the one-off time that I was in a state that I was never in. I was in a whole situation that's not normal. And he was from a totally different state, Colorado, that I had never been from. So you might as well say he was from another planet. And it's no mistake that I meet someone totally outside of my element, and then it's like, you're the one. Oh my goodness, because I truly was not surrounded. When I took a look at myself introvertedly, this is going to sound really weird, but I almost had this spiritual awakening. Like, you from New York and you live in New York, the person you're going to marry is not here. And that's a real thing to face, because New York is a huge city with a ton of people. Why wouldn't I be meeting someone in this big city, this great city, right? I had this awakening way before I ever met my husband. It was like, the person you're going to marry is not here. Didn't have any other information besides that. And now looking back, it does make sense. I got to know myself really well. And while I am a New Yorker, I'm still very odd. Like, I have a very odd personality. I grew up in the theater. So like, it's just the things that I'm like attracted to and that I love are sometimes just not the popular thing, you know? So I personally was not surprised after finally meeting my husband and looking back. I'm like, oh, I really wasn't surprised, but it was the getting to know you part that like you just can't miss. You can't even date or marry someone that you think other people expect you to marry.
Yeah.
And that's a big pressure that a lot of people like walk around with. Like, I'm going to marry the guy that people expect me to marry. Like, whether it's a wealthy guy or a tall guy, or maybe you're black and people expect you to marry a black guy. I don't know. People have all kinds of pressures from society, family, what have you, on who they should marry. And that is another huge, I think, block, whether it's a block in the communication within a relationship that has been already formed, or just single and dating and trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and that's so true, because sometimes those things are more subtle than you think. Talking about that, I'm a Black woman who's married to a man who's Hispanic, and there were some people who were surprised by that, like, oh, okay, he's not Black. But there were other more subtle things that I didn't realize until he and I were dating, that people had certain expectations. It was things like, I am a super type A, very ambitious, kind of high-strung person, and my husband is way more laid back and chill. And people were like, are you sure the two of, like, when we were dating, I'd hear from some people like, are you sure the two of you are supposed to be together? Because he seems very like a little too laid back for your personality. And it was kind of like, well, that's actually what I need, because
I don't know why
from going off the deep end.
Why do they think they matchmakers. It's just crazy to me.
Yeah. But you're right, being able to say that, because once once my friends and family got to know my husband, they really loved him. But hearing things like that in the first few weeks, first few months, like before they'd actually met him, when I was talking about him and things, if I hadn't have known myself, if I hadn't have known my needs, if I didn't have confidence in who I was as a woman, I would have let that relationship go.
You would have missed that boat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Facts. Totally facts. Like I don't know if I ever shared this very much, but like when I write a book at some point in my life, one day I will share it. I had a very explicit, I don't even know if explicit is the right word, but it was a very vivid dream before, maybe like almost a little under a year before I actually met Josh. And the dream was about who I was going to marry. And in the dream, essentially, it was the message was, and it took me like sharing this in a small group I had in seminary school to get a good translation of the dream. But like in the dream, pretty much kind of led me to understand that the person that God had for me to get married to was not going to meet whatever expectation I made up in my mind. Not that they weren't going to meet it as in they were going to fall below it, but erase the expectations we hold on to as human beings that sometimes doesn't even address our internal selves. Some of the things that we imagine about who we were going to marry has so much to do with like what they even look like, like not that we care about attraction, but like I have talked to so many friends who eventually got married and when they were single, and I remember them just being so obsessed, completely obsessed with so many things that were external, like rarely discussing what are some of the characteristics of a person you want to get married to. It was like, well, he got to be tall because I'm kind of tall, and if I wear heels, I can't imagine us at the altar if he just got to be tall, and,
Yeah.
and people will say those things as just like a one-pointer, but it's really not a one-pointer. It's more like a 75%er. And then, and then 25% are like all the really super important things. And you're like, what? And it's an unconscious thing, So the getting to know you part is not, I can't even say how much I support the fact that that is one of the major things that you're doing in working with women who are single and dating or single and not dating,
Yeah. And that is one of the things that I work with women a lot on is I totally believe you should make a list of what you want in a relationship.
Oh, yeah.
But there's a right way to make that list. It is really knowing what qualities you need in a relationship. And I'm sorry, 6'2", 6'3" is not a need. It's just not.
3 ain't gonna resolve the issues that I feel like I'm coming with. So like,
and it's also having those set things that you have to have in a relationship, but it's also some openness. I always say that God gave me certain qualities in my husband that I didn't know I should be praying for.
Oh, say it. Just say it. That is the facts. That was the point of the dream that God gave me before I met my. It was like, listen, you ain't even get it. You've been single 2.5 years at this point. You're not 100% getting it. And I gotta prep your whole soul and mind to understand that if you're not going to miss this blessing, you've got to take your mind to that next level of openness for me to get you there. That's it. Listen, if somebody could make a sermon about that, preach that at the church about dating, I think we'd be in good shape at the church. We'd be in a way better shape. And I'm looking for people to really have those kind of sermons when they preach and teach about dating. This is all part of it. This is all relevant to it.
I love church. I love ministry. You and I've talked before. I grew up in a family full of ministers. My dad is a minister. My brother was the one who married my husband and I. He's a youth minister. I know your dad preaches as well. So this is not to slam the church, but a lot of church advice out here for women is close your legs and wait. And while there are so many benefits to celibacy, there's so many benefits to being patient. And yes, you should be patient. Sitting is not what you should be doing. You should be actively working on yourself. if you believe that Bible verse, he that findeth a wife, then you have to be a wife when you're found. And what are you doing to get to that point?
Girl, you preaching over there. That's right. I got goosebumps when you said that. I got goosebumps. You're right. And what does that look like? Because people even will share that and then still be confused, right?
Yeah.
So what does that even look like? What does discovering myself mean? What should I be doing with myself? Because the reason why we keep pitfalling into these bad relationships is because we're bored.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. Because we're bored. You're not busy enough. You're not busy enough doing stuff that for your own understanding of yourself. And so you find yourself being like, well, I really don't like this guy that much, and I can name 70 reasons why I shouldn't be with him, but what else am I doing? Why not? And then
Why not let somebody waste my time?
Let me let somebody waste my time. Exactly. And everybody's guilty of it. Okay. I'm not sitting up here and acting like I have never allowed anybody to waste my time, but at some point we've got to mature out of that.
Yeah.
That's that, so thank God they can heed or get the advice from somebody, and that people are mature enough to say, I need somebody to help me through this process. That's another thing.
That's totally true. I have so much respect for the women who come to me because, I had that point that you mentioned where I started dating at a young age. I started dating in high school. I became a serial monogamous. I got used to being in relationships. And, it basically came to a point where I had to have a bit of a breakdown. God had to give that to me in order for me to be like, this is not what I should be doing. I need some time to myself. I need to grow myself. And I definitely appreciate a lot of the women who come to me don't get to that point of having any type of breakdown. They have that self-awareness about themselves. But, you bring up a great point because I'm a dating coach. I work with single women. Mm-hmm. You're helping couples before they get married and up to their wedding day. And I just interviewed, so I'm not sure podcast schedule if she's going to be airing, if her episode airs before you or after you. But Rachel Ballard is a marriage coach. And she talks about getting to a point where she and her husband didn't like each other and how and how they were able to get to that point of loving each other again and healing their relationship. And, one of the things that she and I talked about was, you talk about you being single for 3 years and meeting your husband and, 3 weeks later getting married. I know for me, my journey was about a year of being single, of really working on myself, meeting my husband. And then I was doing all this work on myself for a year. He and I started dating. I continued doing work on myself. And, you get to this point where you feel like you're happy and like you've done a lot of growth and you're like proud of yourself for all your self-development and self-growth. And then marriage comes and you're like, oh, there's a whole new level of me that still needs to continue growing. And a lot of women feel like they can't do that. Like, so for you, what is it that you do as far as being a wife, being in this union, but still managing to maintain yourself and grow yourself?
That is a great question because that's actually the season that I'm continuing to live in. Like in the last 8 years, and even on the 4th year when we had our first child, like being able to when you enter being a wife, there's different things that, life challenges don't stop. People, it's not the Disney thing where you're heading off to your castle and live happily ever after. Life doesn't stop. Life challenges don't stop. Like your parents are still aging and you still have to buy a home and you're managing your career, or you're having children. And with each of those different things still has its own identity that you're continuing on, right? So you're continuing on being someone's daughter, even though you're a wife, and you're continuing on when you have your children to step into being a mother in addition to being a wife. All of those things is like you're taking on all these identities. And one thing I cherish the most as a mother and a wife is my own time, me time. I am the person, I'm not the first one to rise in this house. My husband is, but I am the very last one to go to bed every night. I'm a night owl, and I would love to change that up a little bit. But most nights I promise my husband, we have a verbal agreement that some nights I just need to go to bed with him, like on his schedule. But in general, I appreciate some quiet time. Husband sleeping, he's well rested, he's tired from a day's work. My daughter has been running around having the time of her life all day, and now she's resting for the new day. And now is my time. I'm going to watch the shows I want to watch. Or I'll talk to a friend on the phone, or me and my friend are planning a girls trip. Like, girls trips are very important. Or I'm going to read a book I want to read. Continuing on the work you were doing in that singleness almost. The only thing the focus is not on, I'm like getting myself together because I want to combine a life with someone else. I am combining my life with someone else, but really appreciating self. I mean, there's something so big about that, like there's something so major. I feel like a senior citizen deep inside, like an old soul. I know the things I like and I don't like. I am a very decisive personality. People like, I want to do this. I don't go with the crowd, and I don't go with the crowd. So I'm like, I don't want to do that. And they're like, you feel like an old lady sometimes because you're the one that doesn't want to do something or wants to do something. And it's because I feel like I really know myself. The self-awareness level is quite high for me. Like, I will do exercises every day, all day. Like when you go to chaplaincy school, when you go to learn to be a clinical chaplain, the entire program is spent learning about yourself. Yeah. You're like, I'm here to help other people. Why are they making me learn about me? Because you can't help anybody else learn about themselves if you can't do it solo for yourself. That's the method of teaching that I come from. So the self thing never really stops. You can't lose yourself in the identity of just being a mom, and you can't lose yourself in the identity of just being a wife. Those are aspects of you, but to make it all of you would mean that, God forbid, when your spouse goes, and I think I'd still obviously be crushed and devastated, especially if you're married to one person your whole life. But I've been with people at the end of life, and I've been with the spouses, and part of it is that they will honestly look in your eyes and say, I don't know myself outside of this role. Yeah. And I was like, wow. That's even like when people retire from a job, someone's in the military for almost 25, 35 years, and they would go to retire. Do you understand that there's a high percentage of those people who die after? Yeah. In addition to coming from a family of ministers, also come from a very large military family. And there's a lot of, they become 17, 18-year-olds again with no clue about what, what life looks like outside of that. To have a 90 or 80, I used to work at the VA as a hospital chaplain. To have a man that old enough to be my grandfather look me in my eyes and be like, I just don't know what to do with myself, with tears in his eyes. Yeah. That's an awakening. Like, I don't know who I am outside of being Sergeant so-and-so or Captain so-and-so. Like, same thing even with a career, right? You have a really great job somewhere, and then, any kind of career or whatever it is you're taking on as your identity. The only identity I personally have made a decision in my life I can never lose is being a believer in Christ. And I don't mean to sound corny or what, that's what my spirituality means to me. I don't have to worry about that one. At death, that will be my identity. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's the only thing I feel like I could get totally lost in and not have to be afraid that it could abandon me. Yeah, and let's talk about that, because you and I are both Christian, and my clients, I would say about 90% of them are Christian. I have a few women who come to me who are Muslim or Jewish, or, they're more spiritual, but 90% of my clients are Christian. And it's one of those things where for us, you and I believe in it being more than just, let's talk about Jesus and how to look saved in a relationship. Yeah. Not that isn't important, but at the same time, women come to me all the time and they're like, I want a man who loves God, and I want him to be a spiritual leader, and I want him to just pray over our household.
And I always tell them, those are great qualities, but what else do you want in a relationship? Because at this second right now, I can point you in the direction of a man who is godly, who loves Jesus, who prays every day, and who is also incredibly boring. And I doubt that you want to spend 60 years with him. So
hilarious. He's also incredibly boring. Yeah, exactly. I always used to tell my friends at church when I was single and at church, I used to be like, I'm sick of this. I used to be like, just like so sick of like what they were teaching, in terms of dating. I just thought it wouldn't have any depth to it. Not that it was wrong. It just, I needed some like real meat, and not even just that. And I needed more how to and more like, just more direction. And I used to also say, guess what? We go to church every day and we're surrounded by plenty of men that do all of those things that are so godly. I don't like any of them.
right.
And I feel bad about it. I don't like them. Their personality doesn't rock with me. And we never talked about that stuff, the human piece. Like, stop living in the clouds, like the human piece, because every Christian man ain't right for you just because he's Christian.
And you know, even in what we do, like, I don't know if you ever get this, but I've had people message me or come to me and say, why don't you do what you do in a church? Or why is it that you sometimes reference a rap song in your Instagram caption? Or, you know, just certain things like, why are you all over social media? You know, social media is sinly and for the world and stuff. And, you know, Jesus came so that he could preach to everyone and reach everyone. And I appreciate people who work in churches, again, family of ministers. But God's role for me is not in the pulpit. It's just not.
Yeah, no. And it doesn't, to be honest, the most annoying part, and they don't realize that they're hurting people and harming people in the process because the questions aren't really questions. They're more like, I'm telling you what to do, but I'm going to formulate it in a question.
They're accusations.
First of all, exactly. First of all. Second of all, it's like people at church particularly are so obsessed with behavior modification that they totally miss the point. They totally miss the opportunity to do the deeper work that Jesus does do and continues to do and can do. Like, we need to believe in that again. Like, they're so obsessed with behavior modification. A lot of people in my world who are churchgoers, good girls, you know, all that kind of stuff, their behavior is so tight. The behavior is so modified nicely. They are literally suffering. I know them as friends. I know they're suffering.
Yeah.
Not where they want to be. Some of them are not met. Like, there's a lot of pains that are there that are never get talked about because it's just almost not even, there's no space to do it. And it really can create an unhealthy situation.
And they're also not attractive because you get to this point where you become so tight on trying to do everything that a church tells you to do or that a preacher tells you to do that you lose your personality in the process. And
so
this is
tragic.
Yeah. And this is not to knock any other woman, because that was me at one point where I was so hung up on, especially when you're a preacher's daughter, trying to uphold this image of what a preacher's daughter is supposed to look like, that you forget to be yourself. And back to that idea of knowing yourself, you have to know what you want your life to look like beyond just being in church on Sunday. Because while you're Christian 24/7, you're not in somebody's church 24/7. Like, you have to have a life that you live as well.
Absolutely. And like, you know, my parents separated when I was 7, so it made them sort of outcasts of ministry. So they were ministry people who were outcasts. And I don't think that God could have written me a better story, because my personality was a result of that. Winning by the book never really saved a whole bunch of people. Like, to be honest, you know, my dad still was doing what he did, and he was focal in ministry, surrounded by the best of the best. And it didn't stop that from taking place. So for me, you couldn't gimmick me with it. You can't gimmick me. Yeah, I'm just like, I was born into like unable to gimmick this one, you know?
Yeah.
And so I take from church tradition and life the parts that are the meat to me, and I throw away the bone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that that's a skill that people have to be able to do. You know, you don't have to walk away from things altogether and not identify with it, but it's to be able to navigate life in such a way that you're able to extract the meat, extract what's important, what's nutritionist, what's going to feed your soul, and throw away the bones that you're like, that's just extra for no reason. That's just not gonna help me.
Yeah, and for you, so I was gonna ask you to talk about some of the reality shows that you've been on, and some of the couples that you've officiated weddings for, because I think it's very relevant, the fact that in so many ways, when you see a woman officiating these big events, because I used to watch David Tater on TV, so
Oh,
but he is a white male.
Yeah. David's classic, man.
Yeah. But so when you see a woman who's doing these things, when you see a Black woman who's doing these things, and when you see a Christian woman who's doing these things, I was going to say no shade, but actually all the shade in the world. I I see this happen a lot, where people who are so-called Christians, and I say this because I don't think I think part of living that life and walking that walk is not being petty and shading people, but they'll make comments about how, like, oh, they sold themselves out to get to this spot, or they're not real Christians because they're doing this. And I'm like, no, there are women in ministry who do big things.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love those people. One, they make me more famous. Just ask Kim Kardashian. The more people that shade you and have negative things to say, they don't realize that they're helping you. I know God has handcrafted this personality I have. I wait for those people. I know they exist. I love them because they're going to do what they do. They're going to do what they do. I know everything they're going to say already. And I just say they need to sit back and watch me soar. Because if my God is for me, right, like I say, you either going to go up, or he not really for you, and you're not gonna go nowhere. And so I think that it's so important that they watch me and watch me closely, because it's not a gimmick and it's not about me. Because if I've lived a life before, like I tell people all the time, I went to school for theater. I wanted to be an actress. I lived a life where it was all about me, and it was all about, I want to be this and that. And not that I didn't get anywhere, but I didn't even touch the surface of the kind of dreams I had for that. But the minute I redirected my life to be focused on things of the kingdom, like the word of God tells us to do, things happened for me. And they happened for me in a huge, big way that no one can really explain, right? And I'm happy they can't explain it, because it is the fingerprint of his glory. And so while I've literally had those people, naysayers, in my life, as friends, who ask the questions that are really comments, but they're asking the questions.
Yeah.
And those same people will ask questions in the beginning, and they will ask questions and probably talk about you behind your back. But as you begin to grow, you see a different trend. They no longer talk about you to your face or make the comments that ask you the question to your face. They'll still talk about you behind your back.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because never to your face, because they want to stay connected to you. And they are, what do they call that? For clout? Like, that's the word?
Yeah, they do it for the clout.
They want to be connected to you so they can be like, oh, yeah, I knew her. That's my girl. That's my friend. Listen, they done twisted up and two-faced it in a way that God needs to reprimand them for that. But I'm never going to be the one to call them out, because I ain't got the time. So I know those naysayers exist, right? But you can't ever believe that you're going to be a force to be reckoned with without them. So it's a part of the story. Look at the Bible, right? Jesus had people that took him down, all the way down. You know what I mean? Everybody got somebody that got something to say. But at the end of the day, God will prevail. And that's the end of the story with that. That is the bottom line of the gospel. At the end of the day, God will prevail. And if I really believe that, I have to live it. I cannot allow any of those things that those people are saying to tamper with what's going on with me. And I believe that, listen, I've been churched since I was born. If you look at, I was born
baby.
Yeah, I was born in Trinidad, and in Trinidad, actually, the godparents of the baby that's born actually has to sign them the birth certificate. They don't do that in the United States, but they do that in Trinidad. If you look at my birth certificate, it was signed by all reverends. It's no mistake that I'm a reverend. I don't care. No one can take that from me. There's no mistake that I'm a reverend. Sound about all right. I'm churched out. So nobody about to step to me, tell me nothing about this and that and that. They're going to be wasting their breath. But I let them talk because it makes them feel important. Half the time when people tell you stories or they say something or they reprimand you, they talking about themselves. They really are.
Yeah, it's often a mirror into their own insecurities.
Absolutely. 100%. Or they wish that they had the guts to do it. That's the truth. I wish I could do that and be bold and not be torn down by people telling me this and telling me that. But since I can't do it, I have to question it and make that person kind of double back and think differently. Listen, you got one life to live. What are we going to do with it? That's all I have to say with that. You have one life to live. People call themselves workers of God. What are you doing with that platform? What are you actually really doing? Because attending church every Sunday, that's basic. You don't get credit for that. Like, I don't know why people think they get a credit for that, but what's that?
Or because they can name a Kurt Franklin song.
What is that? You know what I mean? What are you actually doing to further the kingdom? Like, let me know. That's the question I have for those people. So I don't even entertain those conversations. And to be honest, I've had people that are therapists of different sort of like helping professions who have called me to coach them through being a little bit more like me on the social media and out there to the people. You can't help people unless you're out there to the people. That's how I feel. Right? I have a very evangelical spirit in that sense. You got to be out there to the people. And so I can say for sure that I am not a stranger to those people. I welcome them. They can come have a conversation anytime with me. They're probably going to be doing more talking than me because they need to. It's therapy. If they want therapy, come on down. Talk to me. You know?
But let's talk about that. So tell everyone who's listening some of the reality shows that you've been on. And then I wanted to ask you, why do you think people love these reality shows? Like, I know my husband and I watch 90 Day Fiancé, for example.
Oh, I just started getting into that. I watched the first season. It's not holding my attention, but I think I'm going to do like a YouTube video and like my whole response to that. Go ahead.
But yeah, so talk about some of the shows that you've been in and why you think, people love these shows so much.
Right. So first of all, I want to admit that I love reality TV. I actually don't watch any normal shows, right?
Yeah.
I don't watch any normal shows. And I love reality TV because I think that if I wasn't a minister, I would be a sociologist. I love studying people in groups. I love a good spectacle. I'm from the theater, like it just works with me, right? And the beauty of it, unlike a scripted show, is like when something happens, it really happened. Like that's the like excitement behind it, right? These people got a divorce, it really happened, like this person died, they died. Like they're not coming back. We're not seeing them at the Oscars later on. Like they go, you know what I mean? Like there's something about it really being a fly on the wall, what I mean? So first of all, that's exciting for some people. Now, some people might say that that's probably sinful too, but oh well, too bad. That's exciting to me, and so that's part of why I watch it. Why other people watch it might be this, some of the same reasons why they read gossip magazines. They like drama, and not just do they like drama, they like watching drama that's making them feel better, maybe perhaps about their own life, right? So even though I don't have a great relationship, or someone might think, oh, I'm getting a divorce, but at least it's not public, like, you know what I mean? Like people want to have an escape from whatever it is they're going through, and that could be therapeutic for them. And so those are the two kind of reasons why I think people watch.
Yeah, and I believe it's also some normalizing too. Like I think one of the particular reasons why my husband and I are attracted to 90 Day Fiancé is, we are a Black woman and Hispanic man, married to each other. Yeah. And when you look at the cultural differences, it's like, oh, other couples have these same discussions. They have these same arguments or these same surprises about each other. And it's a little bit of we're normal. Like this is not just us. And there's a lot of comfort in that. And there's also a lot of, you mentioned it, but there's a lot of, we might be a little bit crazy, but we're not as crazy as that couple.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of interesting that when it comes to the interracial or multicultural, intercultural marriages, that people attribute some sort of political agenda is always involved. So like in the 90 Day Fiance, oh, they want a green card. Like there's always something like political, or like these people are getting together to get some kind of societal one up. And I always feel like the, what do you call it? Like the people who are like, I don't know, in relation, I don't know what you call them. Like when you see interracial relationship, what do you call people who?
I have no clue. There's like no word for it.
For that. There's no word for it. Regular relationships. I don't know. When they're in those, I find that people question it. Even what, it's not just white people that questions it. It's like Black people be like, oh, well, that person trying to be with a white person because they trying to get into societies they wouldn't normally get into. How dare you? Like there's always something that people got to say, and it always has like this political agenda. Once you see an interracial, multicultural, anything, people always think there's like a political thing, and that is what I'm actually learning from the 90 Day Fiance piece, like, what, it's a white person marrying another white person, but from Russia, still, like, people's ideas on like immigration and just everything, and just, it's just political, like people just go there. And
it's hilarious to me because, when I was single, I had boyfriends that were Black. I had boyfriends that were white, that were Asian, that were Hispanic. And I always say I spun that wheel of love and it landed on Hispanic, like whatever,
But I almost feel like you shouldn't have to explain yourself. But this is what irks me. If two Black people get together, they just like don't have to explain themselves. Two white people together, no explanation. Two Spanish people together, Latin people together, no explanation. It's like, I don't need to give you an explanation. Maybe I do just like, I'm mostly attracted to this and that. Okay. Like, why am I having to explain? Like, I find it odd that we have a society that has allowed certain groups not to have to explain, or it's like so offensive if you even try to make them explain, and other groups, it's okay to pry and poke and do whatever. Yeah. It's like, how about everybody just mind their business? How about that when it comes to that piece of the relationship? Like,
or it's okay to make certain comments like, my favorite, oh my goodness, the two of you are going to have such cute babies. And it's like, well, we're going to have cute babies because we're both attractive people, not,
not because it's two races melting together. Like, shame on you for ever even making those. I don't make these comments. Maybe isn't a level of awareness, but it's like, that's corny to me. Like, even when people say that, I'm like, you're corny. Like, when I hear that, I apologize for even admitting I have this bias. But when people say that, I automatically attribute that to your intelligence, or like you ain't never traveled or something. Like those comments to me are small-minded comments. Like, you're gonna have beautiful. It's like, oh my God, really? I didn't like, like I don't like. It's just weird. I'm sorry. I'm not marrying someone to have a good-looking baby. That's not a good reason to get married. By the way,
definitely not. But I think that goes back to what you normalize. I grew up in schools that were very diverse and that were very multicultural.
So did I.
So the idea of dating someone who was a different skin tone, like I had friends who were different skin tones, so whatever. Like it wasn't really
right, and I didn't think any greater or lesser about them because of
right. It. But like I know one of the shows that you were part of is Love is Blind, which is
it's a new experiment. It's the new way of seeing if we can make it work between two people. We just don't let them see each other at first. And it's a hot thing. It's a hot thing on the stove right now. And I filmed that back in 2018. And I actually never thought that it would air. And then here in 2020, it aired. And it was literally one of the most hottest things to hit Netflix. Good on them. And so, so didn't know anything about the couples, and I always have to like reiterate that because people will ask me so many questions about Gigi and Damien, and I'm just sort of like, I didn't know them before their wedding day. It was a real wedding situation, but it wasn't a normal situation for my company.
Right.
It was chosen by production to be a vendor for their wedding. And so I didn't have the backstory. I was going through it like y'all were going through it watching it. Only thing I was going through it in person, okay?
Yeah.
Right on the stage. And so that was that. But what I want to come out of this with, now that I've actually watched the entire season and I have more insight into what happened, was that to me, Gigi and Damien are actually a really great case study for what most couples out there, I believe, relate to. I believe that Gigi and Damien resonate the most, regardless of what other couple is popular or people love or they're looking at and romanticizing about. That's not Gigi and Damien. Gigi and Damien is actually the couple that resonates, I think, with most people out there. That's my conclusion, and I'm sticking to it.
And I also think it's interesting that Love is Blind was shot, the first season was shot in 2018, but that it came out right before the coronavirus pandemic, because now you do have, like, working with single women, I'm working with women now who are dating, and they can see each other because we talk about setting up a Zoom date or setting up a Skype date or Google Hangouts, but they can't be there in person. And I've had more than one client of mine come to me crying and being like, really, I just started working with you and I'm putting myself out there and now I can't date. And I'm like, first of all, you can date. That's what video chat is for. Thank God you live in 2020 where there's technology. And second, I don't think you realize what the opportunity is that you have, because by not dating in person, by having this extended time period before you can be in someone's physical presence, I think that's one of the lessons of Love is Blind, is being able to establish that emotional intimacy first, being able to really get the chance to build a deep connection with someone when you can't kiss them, when you can't hold their hands, when you can't do, talking about culture. And, for Christians, the idea of waiting until marriage before sex is, it's a normalized thing. But, I work with so many Christian women who are like, yeah, I'm, waiting until marriage for that. But the physical is so important to me. The being able to like cuddle up, the being able to like kiss and hug and stuff like that. And being able to have that time. I tell my clients, you're blessed right now.
This is it. Time is out.
Because you can form that connection before there's even a question about, is this going to get physical?
Yeah. And I would even say uninterrupted forming of a bond, because it's not like, this person can be too much out and about doing a whole bunch of stuff. The stuff ain't even open. They home or they home. Like, It's like work mode. All jobs are out for the most part, unless he's working for the MTA or, something where, he's a first liner, but frontliner. But other than that, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is a good opportune time. Now, on the flip side, I have heard some, I don't even know if I want to call them dating experts, but I'm gonna put that label loosely on there. Talk about that this is a weird time to date because it's so not normal, and that you have a connection with someone during this time, that when we go back to normal life, which I don't presume would be anytime soon, but when we go back to normal life, that maybe perhaps you might be setting yourself up for a heartbreak because they don't know how to be that person who's in quarantine in the normal world. What do you think about that?
I believe it's a mix of both, because on one hand, you do have what's called trauma bonding. You do have people who, form these connections with each other, form these bonds, and you have trauma bonding outside of a pandemic. People who both came from abusive childhoods will bond with each other, and then neither of them does the things to actually heal from that child abuse. They don't go to the therapy, so their relationships are still dysfunctional.
Got it.
The blessing side of that, though, is I always tell, my women as they start dating, and they'll come to me and they'll meet someone and they're like, okay, how do I know if he's the one, if he's someone that I should be marrying? You need to know how somebody handles stress before you marry them. And this is
That's why
an
I got
amazing time to
That's
learn
why
how somebody handles stress.
That's good. That is a good dating point. I can't tell you how much I agree with that. And that's why, to be honest, I'm not a dating expert. I'm not a dating expert. But I will say from my experience, I will say I'm not against people dating at work as long as it doesn't overlap with like the fraternization rules of your job.
Yeah.
I actually don't think it's a bad idea if people date at work. Now, granted, there are some downsides. There's downsides to everything. Now, you date somebody at work and it doesn't work out.
It's awkward.
It's awkward. Well, that's the risk you take. Every relationship is a risk. It don't matter. That's the risk you take. You cannot risk-proof dating. Like, it's just what it is. You're putting your heart out there to be, putting yourself out there to be loved by someone. It's a risk.
Yeah.
But dating someone at work is nice because you get to see them under pressure, when they're doing well, when they're praised. You get to see them in these different scenarios that in normal dating life at the bar or whatever, you don't quite see, right? You see them in a very perfect, relaxed environment. And so sometimes dating someone that you are working with gives you the insight, if you have eyes to see, on the things that you need to know about, like how they would be in the relationship in different scenarios. So I agree.
Yeah. And, again, with this pandemic, a great time to learn how someone handles stress or how someone, there's a difference. I have seen people take this time to really pause and reset their lives and really get the rest that they need and heal their body. I have also seen people be just straight up lazy and be like, I can't go to work today, so I'm just going to watch Netflix all day and do absolutely nothing. And
for a lot of days. For a lot of days.
And you get to find out things like that, because if you're asking someone how their day was and you're talking to them and you're asking, how are you handling what's going on right now? How are you feeling? You get to find out things like that. Mm-hmm. Like, because it does become a thing of, you've been married for several years now. I've been married for a little over a year, but things happen. And you want to know, if my husband loses his job, is he going to be the type to be like, it's cool, my wife got it, I'm just going to chill? Or right. Is he the type is he going to be the type who completely freaks out and gets so stressed that he's really not effective at job interviews, and then you have another problem? Or is he going to be the type who's like, okay, I need to take some time to process this, but once I process this, let's create a plan for how we move forward? You need to know those types of things.
Yeah, absolutely. You're talking, all those things are really good. And I just love that I love that people have specialized in dating, because it's so needed. And people have tried to put, like I think I told you last time we talked, people have put pressure on me, like, you should be a matchmaker. They think that all these things are just one thing. Like, you want me to be an officiant, a premarital counselor, a marital counselor, a dating coach, and a matchmaker. Y'all are crazy. Yeah. All of those are like different businesses in itself. They have a different mission, a different focus.
Yeah.
People with different kinds of pains. Like, it's just not the same, even though they would think that.
They're related, but yeah, no.
Yeah, I just am so happy people are learning to find their niche, you know what I mean? And be able to like focus in on it, because one person can't do that all.
Yeah, and I can't predict the future, but I've heard the matchmaking thing for myself too. And it's one of those things where I'm good at what I do as a coach, and where I'm at right now, I feel like matchmaking as well would be too much pressure, because then I have all of these clients who are looking for matches, and I don't really have the time to, with my women, really get into what are the things that are holding you back? What are the issues that we need to resolve so that you can be a good partner? What are the issues that you need to work through from your past? Who do you need to forgive? I always tell women, people can only love you at the level that you love yourself. So if you're not really working on that loving yourself, I would hate to feel at a point where I'm working with this woman, I'm getting her through these things, I'm teaching her how to love herself, and I'm also like, oh, there's a dude over here that I haven't matched in a while, and I need to hurry up and find him a partner.
Oh,
like,
Listen, that's too much. That's too much. I can't. Like, again, I have the counseling, the couples counseling piece, and then I have the weddings piece. My husband's actually the director of Pre-Marital and Marital Counseling. Like, and people are like, oh, you're just giving him a title. I'm like, no, that's not a title. I'm giving him a whole lot of work that he's always like, listen, you put it, I understand that even with having the two things that I do, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And so, no, I understand what it is that I do. And so when people say you should do this, you should do that, I'm like, don't tell me what I should do, because I got my plate full. And I'm not a greedy person, and I'm not trying to stop everybody else from opening up shop. Like, I take the ones that God has sent my direction and send my way, and I will serve them well. And it's so much more paramount to serve someone well than to just serve a bunch of people just for the sake of it.
And to know who you're a match for. I don't know if you have this, but I've had people, other dating coaches, copy my social media post, like word for word, or steal my graphics, things like that. And I have friends who are like, you need to like lawyer up, and maybe one day, maybe I'll get into that. But right now I'm like, there's plenty of business for everyone. And the fact is, I think all single people should have dating coaches. I can't help every single person. One, I don't help men, for example. Even with women, coaching and counseling, which you do, those are intimate things. And you have to have trust, which means that anyone who comes to me has to like me, has to have trust for me.
Right.
And frankly, I have to care about her as well. So there are certain women who are going to come along who aren't a fit, because I know you're working on a docuseries.
Yeah.
Do you have any other projects, and like, how can people find you?
They can find me at marriedbyrevroxy.com. That's married by Rev Roxy, ROXY.com. And you can also find me on Instagram. I'm there the most, at Married by Rev Roxy. So definitely connect, slide in my DM, say hi. I'm very engaging. I post a lot on there. And I also have a counseling page that you will often see me tag in some of my photos, which is MBRR Couples with an S, Retreats with an S. It's my premarital and marital counseling page, but that's just the handle. People always get there and they're like, when is the retreat going to be? Where are we going? And I'm like, I've never actually had a retreat. I call it that because I feel like when you take time out of your life to attend any type of like coaching, therapy, whatever, you're retreating. You're stopping the clutter and the noise of the world, and you're focusing in on some interpersonal, personal, introverted, not as being an introvert, extrovert, but looking into your introspective things, right? Yeah. And so that's why I've called it a retreat, because people always think the retreat means going to a place. And in fact, it could be a mental thing. It could be a spiritual, and so I just see that in that way. And so it's been I guess a gimmick, because people are like, wait, where's the retreat? How can I sign up? And it's like, well, do you need premarital counseling or do you need marital counseling? Because that's the retreat, Yeah. And maybe one day there will actually be a retreat. But again, the way my business is, I take my time and I really perfect something that I do. I don't just jump around to have a bunch of businesses flowing and not be an expert in it,
Yeah, that's the advice this entire time we've been talking, that we've been giving, is that whether it's love or whether it's business, you need to know who you are.
You do, and what phase you're at, and stay there and know how to be in that time and get the most from that season. People miss blessings and miss goodness because they don't know how to be in the season. They're so worried about thinking about what happened in the past and where they're going. But that being present thing, 2019, January, I did the corny thing of setting a New Year's resolution. And the one New Year's resolution I said, I'm not going to do this whole list of New Year's resolution. Yeah. I'm going to learn to practice doing what I say I want to do by starting here. I'm going to do one. And if at the end of the year, I don't accomplish that one, then I got major problems. And the one thing that I said I wanted to accomplish in 2019 was to improve being present. That's it.
Yeah.
Not make more money, not make six figures, no. Be present. And boy, I feel like I've gotten so much fruit out of learning how to do and improving, not being 100%, 1000%. There's always levels to this thing. Yeah. I just wanted to be able to learn to be present.
You know, that's like, you're right. My single season, so many blessings came out of single season.
Oh,
so many. And I had the ability to accomplish so many things that, to be honest, I'm not sure I would have accomplished them if I had been married, and, you know, trying to focus on that, partially because during that season, there was so much growth that I needed to do. And I know that in that season, the woman who I was would have been just too focused on her husband to even think about doing anything else. Whereas now I'm at a place where I have that balance. But so much came out of my single season. And now, you know, the second you get married, people ask you, when are you going to have kids? And it's like, I'm enjoying my husband. You know, I want to be a mother and I look forward to that. But that's just not the season that we're in right now. I'm enjoying being a wife. I'm enjoying cuddling up with my husband, and I'm enjoying our quiet time. You know, that quiet time is going to go away when there's a baby around. And when there is a baby around, I'm going to enjoy that.
Quiet time that you will never get back when that cry of the baby enters the world. Yeah.
But, you know, don't get me wrong. When that time comes, I'm going to enjoy having a crying and screaming baby because I'll be ready for it.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. And there's a season for that, and you do what you need to do with that season when it comes. But people trying to rush you into all kind of stuff. I'm like, mind your business. There's such fruit in minding your business. Like, it's true. It's true.
Sarah Jakes Roberts talks about a mind your business ministry, and I really feel like we need more people to join that ministry.
So she knows she's a pastor's kid. She knows.
Yeah, and especially when that pastor is Jakes, I'm sure. I can't even imagine. You know, my dad being a smaller town preacher in South Carolina was enough for me. I can't even imagine what she went through.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome.
So thank you, Rev Roxy, so much for joining us. And of course, I am going to make sure that your website and your IG handle are in the show notes. And is there anything you want to leave us with?
Anything I want to leave with? Well, I think the one thing that I definitely want to leave with is the same, like, New Year's resolution that I had in 2019, like learning to be present in whatever season you're in. You know, if you're dating and single, learn to be present in that. If you're dating and if you're single and not dating, be present in that. Like, what can you get? How can you get the most advantage out of that? And if you are dating someone and you feel like you're on the cusp of possibly getting engaged, or you're engaged and you're still listening to, be in that season too, because I'm telling you, you never want to be that person that when you're in a new season, you're looking back at the old season like, oh man, I could have did this, I could have did that.
That's so true. When I think about being single, like, I don't miss that. And not because of it was so horrible. Like, that season was great in my life. I don't miss it because I lived it.
Yeah. You know? I mean, yeah, I think back to some great times, but it's like I'm so beyond, my personality has been formed to a new level where I could not be back there. I couldn't. Yeah. I'd be no use. I'd be destructive. It's just not a place for me anymore. There's no place for me back there. You know?
But that's because we lived it. We took that time to enjoy that season. So there's no need to go back because we enjoyed it. We had fun. And we learned the lessons that we needed to learn.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't imagine, even though my daughter drives me up the wall and she's so extroverted, I prayed her into this world, and so she's here because of us. There's no way I could ever return back to where I was before, right? So yeah, you gotta be in that season and learn how to, and even better of being in the season, learn to take advantage of it. Don't just sit there and be like, I'm in the season, I just gotta be here. But if you don't learn to take advantage of it, you will miss the blessings of the time, of the moment, the
I
gem.
think I think that is a great note to leave on. Okay, guys, wasn't Roxy awesome? I love talking to her. In fact, that interview actually went way longer than this episode, but I cut it down so that it wouldn't be too long for you. But definitely check out Married by Roxy on Instagram. You will love her post. And of course, you can find links to working with her and her social media handles over on my site at KeshiaRice.com/links. Hey there. So you made it all the way to the end of the episode, which means I have two things to say. One, thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. And two, you like me. You really like me. So I would appreciate it if you would show that like by subscribing to this podcast so that more people can hear about it and enjoy it as much as you do. And if you want to know more about any of the links that I mentioned on this episode or any guests that I've had, be sure to go to KeshiaRice.com/links. That's KeshiaRice.com/links. I can't wait to talk to you again in the next episode. So, see you then.